on improving the post-pandemic office with technology. We're going to kind of go through some of our basic slides here. On Zoom, I think most of you are familiar with them, but those who aren't, we do record these sessions. There's a chat function. You know where to find that at the bottom of your screen. Please do feel free to ask any questions, and then at the end or as appropriate, those will be addressed during the session. You are muted, and please keep an eye on that. Make sure we don't have any interruptions during the program. We can move on to the next slide there. We suggest staying in speaker view so you see our slides and our speakers. Right here, we always want to give credit where it's due to these incredible sponsors of our chapter. We don't do what we do. We couldn't do what we do without them. I want to pause for a minute and talk about something pretty incredible. It'll be brief, but for those of you who were not able to participate or be part of the virtual global summit, this year was the year that I wish I could play Tina Turner's Simply the Best right now, because our chapter, the Chicago chapter of CoreNet Global, took home the prestigious award of Chapter of the Year. We beat out Australia and New York, and we're incredibly proud of that victory. Kind of an interesting year to win because we're not all around a table screaming and shouting, but everybody who's been a part of this board, everybody who's been involved for years, it's because of everyone's involvement. We do stand on the shoulders of those before us, something Renee Bradshaw once said to me when discussing the board. So this is a cumulative honor, and we're so excited to have received it in this lovely year 2020. It doesn't matter, we won and we're thrilled. So thank you to everybody for all that you've done and continue to do for this chapter. Another prestigious award, Young Leader of the Year, went to Constance Bowen of Northern Trust. She won the Global Young Leader of the Year award. She's phenomenal. I don't think she's on this call. If you know her, give her a shout out. She's stellar and she deserved it. If with an incredible group to be in, but she took home that award as well. So pretty phenomenal. And last and certainly not least, our very own Pepper Construction took home 2 global awards. One for the Sustainable, I think it was the Sustainable Leadership Award. And in addition, the H. Bruce Russell Global Innovators Award for their net zero trailer. So I like to say that Chicago cleaned up house. Pretty exciting in a year that's certainly been, I wouldn't use the word exciting, but in a unique landscape. And thank you all for all that you've done. So I'll get off my soapbox. I love this chapter and thank you all for doing what you do. Get involved, become a member, and reach out to board members to participate. So thank you. Next slide. We've got a large roster here of upcoming events, some pretty fantastic things to look forward to. I will call out something we want you to be involved in, which is our Let's Get Real Awards. That's just a spin on the name this year because of this unique time we're living in and through, but the submission portal is open. Go to our website, look for your e-blasts. There are a lot of innovation award categories added this year. So lots of opportunity to submit, look inward, look to your clients and friends, and please get those nominations and submission forms in. Go to our website for more details. And I think that's enough of me talking. I'm going to turn this over to Mo Fahim of ESD, who's going to lead us through the conversation today on technology. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lauren, and congratulations on all the awards received in Chicago. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time from your day to join us here today. To start off, I want to thank CoreNet and all the sponsors for providing us with this platform to share knowledge, provide insight, and connect on topics that are top of mind, not just in the commercial real estate, but across many industries. As Lauren said, I'm Mo Fahim. I lead our smart building and technology practice at ESD. I'm passionate about innovation, digital transformation within the built environment, leveraging technology to solve for complex problems and creating happier, healthier, people-centric communities. I'll be your moderator today. I'm honored to be here with such a great panel and to usher a very exciting conversation on the role of technology in the new norm. Without a further ado, I'll introduce our panelists today. Starting off, Thru DePriest. Thru leads digital solutions and strategy at CBRE Host. Before CBRE, Thru headed the Global Collaboration Services team at Aon. He led business development at workplace technology startup Comfy and spent 12 years in sales and operations at building automation firm Automated Logic. A fan of the classroom, he earned his undergraduate degree in systems engineering from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, as well as an MBA and an MS in finance from DePaul Graduate School of Business. His credentialed as a WELL AP and previously served on the board of the Chicago chapter of Cornet Global. In his non-existent free time, he enjoys spending time with his family, watching movies starring the incomparable Matt Damon. Right on, Thru. Up next, Myrna Coronado-Brookover. Myrna serves as Senior Vice President for Transwestern's Midwest Asset Services Group, providing property management, construction administration, and agency leasing services for commercial real estate assets. With over 20 years of experience, she is known for her distinct ability to develop beneficial relationships with owners and tenants, and producing the greatest tenant satisfaction while generating the highest possible economic returns for owners. She's directly responsible for the management and leasing of 77 West Wacker Drive, a trophy Class A commercial high-rise located in downtown Chicago. Under Myrna's innovative management, building operations are continuously enhanced through the use of advanced strategies, technology, and cost-conscious decision-making. She has spearheaded building initiatives to achieve Energy Star, Leedy, O&M Platinum rating, as well as 360 BOMA designation. The building is also on track to achieve 3-star health rating, the highest score for Fitwell, as well as Workplace and Viral Response Module by January 2021. Great job, Myrna. Alan Nee. Alan is the Global Director of Smart Spaces and IoT for Aruba, an HP enterprise company. With over 20 years of technology and financial expertise in mobile computing, Alan's team is responsible for developing Aruba's smart spaces and digital workplace strategy. His work has been featured in Fortune, ZDNet, Network World, Business of Furniture, as well as the BBC and even beyond. Alan joined Aruba in 2014 from Goldman Sachs, where he was the Vice President of Technology Infrastructure for the firm's mobile app development initiative and worldwide mobility infrastructure. Up next, Jay Leedy. Jay is a Business Development Director with Diversified Media Group. Joining us from Atlanta, Georgia, Jay works with end clients, partners, and peers to identify new growth paths for a range of managed services offerings centered around DMG's core capabilities to support distributed, connected experiences at scale. Jay leads a team across the nation to help deliver DMG's range of services as cross-divisional sales consultants for over 50+ offices. Most recently, the rapidly emerging need to solve for COVID-19 return to work strategies has broadened Jay's expertise in addressing thermal sensing, density management, access control, and visitor management platforms as part of unified corporate communication strategies. Last but not least, Thru Shivakumar. Thru is the CEO and co-founder of Cohesion, a real estate software company that creates intelligent buildings and enhances human experiences by connecting people and systems in a single, comprehensive platform. She is responsible for leading Cohesion's alignment, execution of its strategic vision, as well as delivering shareholder value. Thru has 15+ years of experience in private, public, and civic sectors, holding positions across finance, business strategy, M&A, and entrepreneurship and business development. Thru holds an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University and a BS in finance from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. She serves on the boards of Current and working in the school, a Chicago-based nonprofit. What a stellar group of industry leaders and subject matter experts we have here with us today. With that being said, let's begin the program. We're focusing today about technology in a post-pandemic world. Over the 6 months or so, technology was essential in overcoming one of the greatest disruptors in enterprise history. So as the hybrid workplace model continues to evolve and as companies continue to strategize around benefits and challenges of in-person working versus remote working, the working from everywhere model, technology is going to continue to play a key role in the evolving workplace, wherever that may be, and the decisions organizations make about their workplace. Today, we're going to explore existing and new horizon technologies in a post-COVID-19 workplace. We have arranged our discussion around 3 key segments, posing questions for each of our panels during which the 3 segments are pre-arrival, arrival, and working in the brave new norm. Time permitting, we'll wrap up with a 30-second segment from each to tie it all together and address any questions from the audience. Starting off with pre-arrival. in response to COVID-19, would like to know let's talk about how are we leveraging technologies to prepare for the eventual post-pandemic return of employees to the building and the workplace. Thru, we're going to start with you. What's the host platform? And where have you been focused in supporting a safer arrival to the office?
Sure. Thanks, Mo, and thanks everyone for making some time this afternoon to talk through. Certainly, one of the things that's been hottest on everyone's mind as we start looking at returning to office, potentially going back into 2021. So the host platform is an experience as well as a digital platform that is something that's iterated out of a number of hackathons within CBRE over the last three and a half years. We have a suite of apps that primarily cover both the property management side of business for multi-tenant buildings, as well as large occupier clients. And by and large, where we've seen that technology pivot over the last 3 to 4 months, there's been some consistency across both, whether you're managing a Class A million square foot building in the Loop, or you're a corporate real estate professional who's got a body of portfolio locations, as well as folks working from home now. And it really anchors around really two key factors of trust and confidence, and how we see building owners, building operators now leveraging technology to help people who are at home try to find an element of trust in going back into public when we've spent the last 6 or 7 months now convinced that home is the safest place to be for ourselves and our families. So what you're seeing on the screen here on the left-hand side, this is our app called Host Work, which we target for large enterprise corporate real estate teams. And traditionally, it does all of the things you would expect from a workplace app that connects to space. Help me find the right space to do the right work at the right time. And then on the right side, as we start talking about specifically addressing that first phase of your day of how do I get back to the office? This is a bit of a day in the life. So the way that we've laid this out is being able to evaluate first thing in the morning, can I go into the office? So putting in a single place in the palm of an employee's hand, is my corporate office open today? Is my group allowed to come in? We know some clients are starting to stage back 10%, 40% of traditional occupancy these days. And then give them the choice of, I can either select and notify building administrators as well as my team, am I staying home or am I coming in today? That then moves into a health questionnaire, which a lot of folks are requiring their teams to complete now, selection of a socially distanced desk, and then the entry pass card you're seeing there with a green background is kind of like a boarding pass to get on an airplane. So this signals to someone at a front desk or a reception type person, hey, I'm allowed to come in, I've taken my questionnaire, everything is copacetic. And then the last bit of just being able to show, leveraging sensors and beacons and those kinds of things, here's where the high traffic areas are. So if I get to my floor, I know where a lot of people have been sitting, and we're all a little conditioned right now to avoid crowds. So this kind of helps guide where somebody can sit. So it's been an interesting 6 months to say the least, but we're humble and excited to be working with clients to do something so important.
That's great. Thank you, Thru. Literally navigating people to safest location within the office. Thru, like Thru with Host, Cohesion provides tenant engagement opportunities. How does Cohesion interface with building systems and inhabitants?
Thanks, Mo. So Cohesion is a building experience platform that integrates or connects building systems, engages and activates the kind of space with the tenants. We offer smart controls, and we deliver those actionable insights to owners, operators, and tenants alike. We help create kind of that comfort or safety before and while tenants arrive at the building space by providing a window into indoor air quality that's easy to understand, fully touchless access with digital key cards and elevator call buttons, seamless visitor and vendor management, and real-time occupancy stats, to just name a few of the things that people are really looking at, that increased communication and increased touchless aspect of buildings. We currently are working with base buildings but are extending into the tenant spaces and are doing global rollout to a financial services team that's really looking at occupying, or I guess equipping their bathrooms with occupancy sensors, really understanding when and how those are used, indoor air quality, like I've mentioned, and making sure there's a big kind of focus on elevators itself. So with our integrated elevator platform, we're able to take an elevator out of service and trigger a service request after that cab has run. Let's just say the building wants to do 20 times. We offer insights to those owners that reflect how many times the elevators were cleaned, and providing them an opportunity to share that with building tenants, that the building is actually safe. And I kind of touched on this before, was indoor air quality. It's a big thing that people are really focusing in on. Some buildings, I shouldn't say all, but some buildings are hesitant to show tenants how their air quality is, because pollutant levels change and shift throughout the day. But this is an area that we believe should have transparency, and that tenants should request buildings to have, because through programs like ours, we can monitor those pollutants, temperature and humidity, and show it in an easy to understand way that also educates, what does this mean, right? Air quality is a bit of an amorphous, like, how do we understand this? How do we digest it for the everyday tenant? In the background, though, we're directly integrating to the HVAC equipment to allow for more air to circulate in the space to optimize that air quality. So these are some of the ways that we at Cohesion are integrating systems with that tenant experience or occupant experience to deliver that confidence, both pre-arrival as well as in the building itself.
Great, thank you. Through both two excellent solutions. We talk about promoting confidence. Myrna, this one goes to you as a multi-tenant building operator. What measures have you implemented to help with that trust, the kind of elimination of fear, and getting people ready to come back to the office and the workplace? Oh, sorry, Myrna, I think you are on mute.
That would help. Thank you. Well, representing the property management side, our focus is on technologies with a concentration on the human element, the customer. So right now, Transwestern is leveraging new and existing technology to help reestablish that customer trust through transparency and empowerment. The visibility of operations and maintenance of a facility is more important now than it's ever been. So as you can see on this video here, we were able to launch a touchless elevator experience with the simple use of your mobile device. The technology also has the ability to remote call the elevators and using the mobile credential and Bluetooth technology. So the same technology is also in place in the multi-tenant washrooms with automatic door operators to, again, promote that touchless environment, but through transparency and empowerment, like you see there on the video, just indoor air quality, we're measuring temperature, relative humidity, carbon dioxide. All these things are now at the forefront of what's important to our customers, and accessibility. So we really are really proud of our success at 77 to be the first to launch this. And our partnership with Cohesion has been seamless.
Fantastic. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Myrna. Alan, the next one goes to you. You're in a unique position. You're a leader in the space as well as overseeing your own offices. So what about Aruba? What have you done over the past 8 months in your own offices to prepare for the return?
Great. Thanks for having me here. So I think the first thing that we're doing, obviously, like many of you, our workforce is at home, and the first job top of mind was to get everyone supported in the existing environment. But prior to talking about technology, I think the company has really been looking hard and fast at, what is the actual workforce strategy going to be going forward? What is this pandemic brought out, and how are we going to leverage a strategic investment like real estate to support that going forward? And many folks, many organizations, everyone from HR to our business leaders to real estate to our IT folks are all playing a part of this. And where we've kind of arrived at, and we're actually communicating to our 60,000 rank and file, is we've coined it internally edge to office, where many of our traditional sort of office workers, at least a pretty significant portion of it, are now going to be coined edge workers. And what that actually implies is that their primary workplace may no longer be the traditional office that they went to, or where I went to back in December or January. And a lot of the focal work will be supported at the edge. And what that's caused us to rethink is really to reimagine what does the actual physical office and our significant portfolio of office space turn into. And like many others, I think this is not just kind of a concept, but we're actually starting to reprogram that space. So we're pretty aggressive with a lot more collaboration space versus just dedicated focal offices, but now we're effectively doubling down. And if you think about now the offices, when someone now goes in to do teaming exercises, to do collaboration, to do all hands sort of meetings, obviously we're going to support individuals there for focal work, but we're going to be a lot more driven based off of oversubscription than we ever thought we would be. And where that's leading to is now the technology itself. And like many of the other presenters talked about, there's going to be a lot more focus around understanding the real-time inventory of space. There's going to be a delicate balance of working with best practices with the actual workplace planners, and then probably a large focus on reservation technology. This was something that Aruba was already doing, pushing the forefront pre-pandemic. And if anything, this has really accelerated that motion, not just for us, but for a lot of the customers that we talk to, I'd say at least by 12, 18 months.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Jay, as a systems integrator, I think you get the chance and opportunity to connect all the different elements of the ecosystem and all the panelists even today here, from an owner, occupier, end user, as well as solution provider. How are you helping companies prepare for return and support what will likely be multimodal work style?
Great question, Mo, and thank you again for having Diversified on this panel of really strong thought leadership. I apologize, I'm not on my camera today. We had some severe storms down in Atlanta, so I'm trying to save a little bandwidth on my cell phone here. But as Alan was talking about, you know, the rise of reservation technologies and the rise of all of these various enterprise and space management systems like Cohesion and Host, we are really the enablement arm of bringing those into environments from a design build perspective, working with GCs, architects, and property management firms to identify the best way forward to implement these types of technologies, as well as integrate them to software platforms to include management systems, you know, in ensuring all of these things work and operate seamlessly. So in addition to the reservation technologies that Alan had touched on, we also have a very strong practice of digital signage, which is my team specifically within Diversified. We're a managed service provider of digital signage networks. So enabling wayfinding solutions to include optimization and really route optimization to provide for the best and safest route from point to point within a given space. Contactless concierge solutions like we see in the bottom left-hand corner of this graphic that really are a means of providing a direct person-to-person interactive experience while not having to necessarily have a person on site through remote technologies with either strategically placed tablets or using smartphones as a communication platform. We also do a number of kiosk implementations to include temperature sensing kiosks, which has been a very significant rise in demand since the beginning of the year, and implementing those with density management and occupancy management systems that are able to automatically deliver messaging in a stoplight type of fashion that also can incorporate branding or situational awareness messaging, so that anybody entering a given space can at a glance understand, you know, what the conditions of the environment are, if there's anything that they need to be concerned about, but also whether it's safe or whether there's a potential risk based on the current density of a given area. We're seeing these types of reservation technologies evolve from, you know, what used to be only conference room booking to now hoteling. You know, there was already a rise of hoteling in a number of enterprise environments where, you know, workers didn't necessarily need to have their own designated office or desk. They could just go wherever they, you know, needed to sit at a given time. Well, now, you know, taking that thought process for reservation technologies and applying it to other areas that are common areas. So, for example, you know, is it safe to go into the cafeteria? Am I confident that I'm going to be distanced from other people in a manner that provides a degree of confidence to me that, you know, I'm not going to be incurring risk by doing that? Is there an area that I can book for just, you know, common area to get work done that's not necessarily at a desk? So we're seeing a number of those proliferate. Also, integration of technologies into surveillance camera systems that use AI integrations to automatically notify cleaning staff and facilities management staff that an area that has been used is now potentially at risk and needs to be addressed with a cleaning protocol. You know, that can be driven automatically through a number of applications that basically scan number of touches and frequency of traffic and provide heat mapping at a glance, again, to digital signage. So at a glance, anyone entering a given space can see, you know, if there's a potential for risk or a higher degree of safety. And then last but not least, just general communication has become much, much more important because of situational awareness, because of safety protocols that are constantly changing. So using digital signage as a tool and remotely managing that in a way that uses automated triggers and inputs enables us to really kind of bring home an entire ecosystem of smart technologies into these spaces.
Great stuff. Thanks, Jay. You definitely hit on something you hear me say quite often. A lot of these tools are evolving from being conveniences to actual essential elements that's going to support a safer environment, and reservation systems being one of them. Moving on to segment number 2, talking about the arrival. Let's discuss workforce expectations. And this is a great backdrop here. How technology is going to support greater safety and occupant confidence. What is the future workplace building going to look like? What are people going to expect as they get into the new space and the new office and the lobby of the future? Myrna, speaking of lobbies and buildings, let's start off with you. What will arrival to your building be like, and how do you see this evolving?
So, you know, I have shifted from, you know, the operation and maintenance of a building to really promoting the building's health and its intelligence. So as visitors or tenants arrive at 77 West Wacker, again, we're relying on technology to, you know, streamline the process, promote the touchless experience, and ensuring that people feel safe. And again, through transparency and information on the building's health. You know, it's the guidelines that have been implemented through the CDC, whether it's the health screenings, all of these things are all part of the experience. They're there, they're at the forefront, but we want to, you know, emphasize what's invisible and, you know, promoting that level of confidence with anybody who walks into our lobby, into our elevators. They recognize that these precautions have been taken and are clearly consistent, not only at the arrival, but throughout their experience in the building, whether it's going to a washroom or, you know, within their own space. So again, through technology, we're, you know, utilizing it to perform health screenings, to, you know, access elevators remotely, touchless, transparency, empowering the tenant to be able to, or the customer to obtain information, and accessibility to management. Unfortunately, today we can't really meet in person as much as we'd like. So we're using a real chat feature so that they have, you know, access to us during normal business hours without having to generate an email. So through accessibility, we're continuing to build that level of confidence and trust.
Great. Thank you, Myrna. It's very exciting to see a shift in mindset as well of owners and you are definitely ahead of the curve and a leader in the space. Thru, talking about cohesion and safety and efficient workspaces and buildings. What features and opportunities does Cohesion provide to support that new expectation of the next building, the next future lobby?
I will build on what Myrna's saying. Myrna is definitely, and 77 are definitely at that forefront, really driving transparency. We work with a lot of buildings and talk to a lot of buildings that aren't, willing to be as transparent, because there's an unknown here, right? There's a big unknown of how buildings can optimize their spaces and increase that what does increased transparency mean to the tenants, right? And so what we hear, we ran a survey in May. We're running a survey again to see how sentiments of the employees have changed throughout this pandemic. What we're seeing kind of as early thoughts from the employees is that in the beginning of the pandemic, it was still increasing communication. So more transparency, more communication from both buildings and employer management down to the employee, everyday employee level. They want to know the health and safety of the building. Are they doing everything they can do? Are they investing in technology? Is the elevator safe? Are they, elevators are a big one, but is it safe? Are we thinking about parking? Are we thinking about transportation options? How are you communicating that? Do you communicate? We found a kind of interesting survey result that people had said that they want access to information, but they don't want to be inundated with it. So they want to know that it's there. They don't want it always kind of alerting you in your face about health and safety. So, when somebody is COVID positive in the building, our building currently kind of sends out reminders on what that is, or sends out kind of updates on if people are unwell or sick. And I'm not sure what that does for the employee sentiment of bringing people back. So it's a level of how do we manage appropriately the flow of communication, but keeping it there so that people can access it when they want. So that's kind of how we also thought about, folks are asking about indoor air quality. We don't inundate the tenants with that, but it's there if they want to see it. The sensors will be able to show real-time activity, and to building operators, they will see trending analyses so that they could continue to make the space safe and bring confidence to the tenants. And more we're seeing tenants ask for that as well. So really, I think as a theme, we're seeing increased communication and increased an expectation for buildings to invest in their technology, largely being driven by tenants. We have great forward-thinking buildings like 77 and what Myrna is doing at Transwestern, but also tenants are driving a lot of that conversation, requesting these things.
That's great, Thru. Thank you. I'm going to have a brief follow-up for you, pushing that discussion all the way down to the edge, pun intended. Can you talk about some of the systems or sensors that you're using to power the platform and enable the trust and confidence in the new building environment?
Yeah, we're doing a lot, as you mentioned, we're doing a lot of analyses at the edge where it's a lot of data. So we went live with one of our indoor air quality programs at a building of ours, and about 2 months ago. And we pull information out of each floor has multiple sensors from an indoor air quality perspective. So there are, hundreds of thousands of lines of data to truly understand how, what is happening in the space, how often do spikes happen. There is obviously a big correlation to when the fans run in buildings. And so how we present the data and make it actionable for people, one, to digest, but also for, buildings to act upon it is really important. So there's no shortage of data in our industry, whether that's in tenant spaces or whether that's in buildings. It's really how do you synthesize that and make it actionable or understandable for the end user. So from a confidence perspective, it's about, from systems integration, it's about making sure that we're not integrating just to integrate. We're actually integrating so that the end user flow can benefit from it. So from access control systems to elevators to sensor and IoT, IoT devices, all of these have to be seamlessly integrated into an IoT platform that knows how to talk to one another, right? So that's a big part of the confidence that we can give buildings that they could then pass on to the tenants.
Great, thank you, Thru.
Mo, if I can add
go ahead, Myrna, yeah.
just a little bit. Again, from a tail end of what Thru said is, promoting this technology, having this technology in place is wonderful. But if we don't have adoption, it's just technology. So working with Cohesion at 77, we've been very focused on how we deliver this technology in the simplest form. If you want granularity, we can provide granularity, but sometimes the hey, good is exactly what the client wants, what the customer wants to see, so that they can feel good. They're not scientists, they're not out there measuring carbon monoxide, all that. So launching these platforms or this technology, I mean, our focus is on the customer, on the end user, and ensuring that the adoption is there, because without that, we really can't really measure our success. So just wanted to, put that out there, that's one of our main focuses in making the technology sort of understandable, easy to use, so that customers feel comfortable in relying on it and making it part of their day-to-day.
It's great. Thank you for the added notes, Myrna. Thru, what about host? Briefly talking, what are features, opportunities you provide to support that safe and efficient workplace? What systems and sensors are you using to power your platform?
Sure. So certainly it's been a big topic of conversation over the last 6 months, and just taking a quick step back from a high level, kind of the why, a lot of these things, a lot of the other software platforms in the industry have been pivoting pretty hard. Over the summer, it's just, the obvious one, no one's going back right now. More and more clients that we talk to, and I've met with probably north of 50 different global occupiers that are all CBRE accounts over the last 6 months. And, at first we thought we'll be back July, then it was September, and now we're looking at next July. So I think right now, the outcomes that we are in conversation with sort of anchor around 2 or 3 different key areas of focus for the corporate occupier. Alan alluded to a few of them. So, one, helping to manage real-time occupancy. For those who are allowing back maybe 30% of their workforce into the corporate office, if you had 100 people capacity before, you're not bringing back 100 people now. You can't maintain social distancing. It's bad for your, just having people in close contact. So leveraging sensors, leveraging things like desk booking is another one. We have a lot of clients who traditionally have been fully assigned. They haven't moved to activity-based working just yet from a workplace strategy. Now they recognize that if people are coming in 2-3 days a week, which is going to be a new normal, they have to be able to be flexible with those workstations. So we've had a larger volume of reservation technology conversations in the last 6 months than we have in the past. I think the third piece of that is around visitor and contractor management as well. You talk about the arrival piece, is how do you agnostically, from a technology perspective, and how do you, from a health data perspective, ask questions in a way that you keep people from coming into your space if they shouldn't be there, while at the same time ensuring that you can be productive while you're on site. So we've seen a few of these solutions pop up. We work hand in hand with our visitor management system platform partners to facilitate that. So I think those two, kind of a real-time occupancy in the corporate space, as well as moving to more of a flexible desk booking scenario. Big two we've heard over the last 6 months.
Thank you, Thru. Alan, this one goes to you, talking about the edge and sensors. We talked about some systems and sensors being added to the building. What does Aruba think about building IoT, and what is it doing about it?
Yeah, well, we're definitely seeing, as I mentioned before, an acceleration in terms of technology needs based off of what's happening right now, and acceleration in terms of the types of sensors that are going into a connected building. And it's not just for new construction, new projects. I do think, and we think that, there will be a pretty significant retrofit sort of market for many of the things that both Thru and Thru talked about, right? Whether it's monitoring space occupancy to the environmental pieces of it. And one of the phenomena that we've seen is that a lot of those solutions, right, whether it's occupancy monitoring, environmental monitoring, et cetera, typically and traditionally have been sold vertically, and you guys would know better than others, right? Where you go to an actual client, maybe it's the the facilities folks. You offer them the whole turnkey solution of sensors, the connectivity. Oftentimes the connectivity could be an LTE gateway that goes out and the software that drives it. And that works well if you have one or two use cases. But as many of us had mentioned, the technology, we need to have a much more holistic picture of what's actually happening in the building. And oftentimes you're now talking about sensor fusion. So you may have an array of sensors that are out there, but then are you going to have parallel sort of LTE gateways, unmanaged, not very CISO friendly or IT InfoSec friendly, driving it? And we've had a lot of big organizations come to us to kind of say, hey, Aruba, you have Wi-Fi access points that are very dense within a building. Oftentimes you see one of these every 2,000 square feet or so within space. And traditionally that's served more of just the corporate IT sort of traffic, IP traffic. Could we leverage those things and kind of repurpose and reposition them more into more of an agnostic sort of gateway that could not just drive Wi-Fi based traffic, but maybe things that are driving off of Bluetooth or Zigbee, which is where a lot of the wireless sensor technology is heading. And I think we've been very successful over the past 18 months supporting all different sorts of applications, sensors that measure temperature, water leak detection sensors, physical access control, occupancy sensor, lighting systems, smart door locks, and funneling it through kind of this footprint that already exists within buildings, right? So now we have a centralized place where the traffic comes in and goes out. We have enterprise and IT kind of sanctioned controls around this so that we don't have just a whole Pandora's box of solutions that aren't managed that put the building and the tenants at risk.
Great stuff, Alan. I would love to pull on that thread, edge IoT device management, security, monitoring, maintenance, but I think that's an hour discussion in its own. We got like a quick time check. We got 15 minutes left, so we're going to move on to our last segment here and talking about working in the brave new norm. And Jay, I'm going to direct this to you. Let's focus on the segment about more edge devices, specifically indoor air quality, space utilization, occupancy compliance, analytics, et cetera, et cetera. So you've heard Alan yourself mention this. COVID-19 has been a great accelerator for tech adoption, especially when it comes to smart building technologies. I've mentioned it at the beginning. This is beyond conveniences. This is now becoming an essential element for safety, for confidence, for operation and maintenance, et cetera. So Jay, what are you seeing as the highest priority items amongst your clients? Is it virtual collaboration? Is it contactless experience? Is it the occupancy analytics? Is it the sensors? If you could share some insight on that. I think, Jay, you might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry about that. So it's a great question. There's, I think, been a number of things that have been ironically positive that have come out of the 2020 era that we're finding ourselves living in, which is to say the acceleration of things that, at least from a technologist perspective, we've always known would bring efficiencies, bring more convenience to both management and staff, as well as visitors moving in and out of these spaces. But the adoption of them was either considered a lower priority or was financially challenging for a number of organizations. So in kind of reorganizing their capital and operating budgets to address the results of what we're faced with in this current pandemic, we've seen a lot of investment across a number of technologies. So the ones that you just touched on, with a lot of the kind of gateway level sensing technologies that can be repurposed into essentially a mesh for providing occupancy and density sensing, but also using those gateways to pull back data for AI and analytics to drive heat mapping and better visibility in a more automated fashion to the impact and net effect of traffic in a given space. certainly has been a big driver. As I mentioned earlier, just communication and the need for people to be able to access either at a glance or on demand as much information as they want or as little as they want, as Thru mentioned, it can be overwhelming and sometimes a cause for concern. So what we've also seen is the image that you're looking at here and the previous image is really a need to address a virtualized workforce in general. So that's one of the positives that I've seen come out of this is that the corporate and managerial confidence that productivity won't be necessarily impacted by people not being in an office and having to put in face time. And I can speak for myself personally, having worked virtually for a number of years, my productivity has never been higher. And through platforms like the one we're using now with Zoom, Teams has become a much bigger solution, as well as the Blue Jeans and other video conferencing platforms combined with webcasting. So webcasting has really grown to reach a number of people as a one-to-many solution, and then layering in these types of environments through HTML, basically web browsers or immersive virtual reality environments in some cases to address a market that is completely collapsed, which is trade shows and events, conferences. People are not going to those, but there's still a need for people to get together, both from a networking perspective, as well as just ensuring that corporate messaging or specific learning tracks are addressed at scale for large numbers of people. That also facilitates mind share and thought leadership and an exchange of ideas. These types of platforms have really evolved to fill that gap, and what we believe is going to happen is that there will not be a return to normal as we knew it in 2019. There will always be likely a need to have a virtualized component for any on-site event that used to be only a select few going to various environments, trade shows, symposiums, what have you, now having a means of reaching more people through these various technologies. And that's something that Diversified has been hard at work at over the last several months, is to bring forward a suite of virtual productions as a service offerings to address that need, and really further virtualize physical spaces so that more people can have more flexibility in the way that they reach communication.
Thanks, Jay. I think we all look forward to the days of re-enabling social collision and collaboration in person safely and responsibly. Alan, directing this to you, what is the new norm in office technology going to look like?
Yeah, great question. So as I kind of mentioned, as we kind of rechart how we're going to get back into the workspace, and as we talk to clients, we definitely see, we talked about the reservation technology, et cetera. We're doubling down a lot on our location-based services sort of technology. Internally, we've actually gotten a lot of requests from customers that are focused not just around the post office, but just return to office technologies. We talked about some safe return technologies, whether it was kind of the pre-registration, et cetera. There's been a lot of interest, and we've actually been shipping since the summer some native tools around things like space utilization and contact tracing. Contact tracing was something pretty interesting and frankly, fairly new term for many of us back in the spring. But it started with some very interesting sort of requests, just saying, hey, you have some fabulous indoor location sort of technologies. Let's put the legal and privacy things aside for a second. But is there ability to be able to figure out if someone were heaven forbid, to be sick within a building, to instead of closing down the building or notify everyone within a specific facility, could we be a little more thoughtful around those notifications, et cetera. So this is an area that we've actually done quite a bit of investment in, from leveraging a wearable sort of device based off Bluetooth, developing new sort of pieces of software that aren't oriented at IT, but more at facilities, health individuals, HR individuals within an organization, so that they can have a better sense of, should there be a event that occurs, who potentially that individual would have been in close contact with. And, some of the benefits is, as I kind of mentioned, we just have a lot of existing square footage covered. I think we believe we have probably north of 25 to 30 billion square feet of space that has our infrastructure covered. So being able to repurpose that to be able to bring in this sort of capability is super important. And, we've seen probably some of the first mover industries here have been kind of things like higher education. They had a big mad rush to try to reopen schools, and, depending on where schools are, some did reopen, some reopened and closed and went virtual very quickly. Industries like financial services, where they felt the need that they did need to get some individuals back into the office, right? These are some of the earlier movers with this sort of technology. But we're also thinking, once again, not just a one-trick pony just for COVID, but as you deploy this sort of technology, as it becomes a little more accepted, now you have better ideas into what the true space utilization of a space could be. And it can augment, some of the sensors that typically we talked about before that sometimes are pretty densely packed and may not be feasible to deploy, throughout every square foot of the office. So we're doing a lot in this area. And probably the last piece I'd say, going back to my discussion on edge workers, right? Ourselves, and we think a lot of other people, we have some pretty fabulous sort of secure remote access technologies that allow people to connect wirelessly or bring wired peripherals that customarily would have been in the home into their home office. I mean, from the office back into their home office. And, we've been partnering with folks like Comcast, the biggest ISP in the US, to make sure that, not only can we have a very secure connection, but you have a very prioritized connection as you come out of the house, right? If you have competing traffic, et cetera. So lots of technology at play for sure.
Great, thank you, Alan. I think we want to move on to our closing thoughts. And I'd love to hear in a quick 30-second segment from each of the panelists about, in a year from now, or maybe 5, what will this conversation look like? Are we going to have a short-term memory? What would we look back? What challenges we'll be solving with advanced technology integrations and new developments in analytics? Myrna, would you like to kick us off? You're on mute, sorry.
Okay. Oh, wow. I was still looking out into space going 5 years. Wow. Geez, I think that once you let this out of the gate, I just think this is just going to continue to advance. I don't see ourselves going backwards. I just see, customers expecting more. So I just kind of caught off guard with that question because I was kind of thinking about that. But yeah, no, I think that the more we're able to achieve today for tomorrow, I think that it's just going to, again, become the norm. And we're going to have to just keep getting better and better. Like I said, I don't think we're going to be working remotely 100%. There's going to be a balance to that. I think, people are going to want to come back to work with a different outlook. I think outdoor space is going to also be important in how they conduct business meetings, a lot more casual. Again, technology's out there, but I think we're just going to keep going. Flexibility has been my best friend during this entire COVID. And that has been what I have used to continue to solve for problems that come my way every day. Again, talking about transparency and confidence, I've armed myself with the truth. I've made myself accessible to my customers. I continue to partner with them and, share and exchange information. We're all learning. This is all new for all of us. But, the more they ask, the better we are to respond. So I'm ready for it.
Awesome. There you have it. Positive, and technology is going to be there, and hopefully, moving onwards. Sorry to put you on the spot with that question. Great answer, though. Thank you so much. All right, Drew, 30 seconds. What do you think?
I think the only thing that anyone could say right now is that the new normal has accelerated the concept that the actual physical office is a destination that people have to make a conscious decision to go to. People have learned how to be productive at home. I think a lot of companies, you're hearing that, especially some of the big tech firms, have announced that they're now permanently remote. I think that will only help a lot of corporate real estate professionals like those on the call to start adding choice, to start moving towards where some have in the past, to provide the amenities, the choice that people decide to come to the physical workplace. I think technology is going to help to drive that in terms of enabling how you can be your best, do your best work at the right time if you're at home or if you're in the office. And I think there's some standards we haven't talked about on this call. They weren't, specifically important, but things like things like the Leesman Index, to really start driving how you design workplace from a strategy and technology perspective to ensure that you provide that choice. If nothing else, to me, that's what this grand experiment has proven, is that people want to work where they're most productive. And I think that's our challenge moving forward.
Right. It's been a great disruptor as well as a great accelerator on technology. Thru, I will turn it over to you. Your thoughts in a closing segment?
Yeah, I think that buildings will be smarter as we come out of this. I think overall the push for technology is real. And I think it's not just to connect workers, but I think that buildings and corporate real estate are all kind of focusing in on resiliency, right? What's the next thing that gets thrown at, at this industry? It is a great disruptor, but also a great accelerator, like you said. I believe that the office is coming back. I think that while there's some groups that are talking about productivity being high, but the collaboration, innovation really happens in person. And there's as much as we're working on Zoom and Teams, I think that in-person collisions are necessary for collaboration. So I think what we're going to be talking about in a year from now is really what's the new fabric of community in office space? Like, what does that mean? And how are we going to drive towards that? So I think that there's some things to be seen.
All right, well put. Alan, we talked about the building, we talked about solution providers, you both as a technology leader and an end user. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, echoing the sentiment of many others, right? This has really accelerated our journey with the adoption of technology, a focus on experience, et cetera. If I had to pick up my crystal ball here, a lot of this technology, at least, back in December, January, focused on marquee buildings, marquee names, brands. I think, because of the acceleration here and how people are going to reimagine how their workforce works, it's going to go downstream. Right. So it's no longer just going to be the pinnacle of buildings, but there's going to be definitely an appetite of having this technology work symbiotically with the building come downstream. I think, as many of us are solution providers, right now, we're really thinking from a UX perspective and trying to tie this all together, orchestrate it, make it very automated, as seamless as possible. But I think for many of us, we're just scratching the surface, right? There's a lot of room for improvement, leveraging smart technologies, AI, whatever, to actually make it even more seamless to the end user. So I think there's going to be a lot more portfolio and a lot more square footage that's going to be quote unquote smart. And then, as I said, I think the workflows are just going to get just better and better. And I think we can all aspire to work on that.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Jay, as the integrator and the team and the panel here, what are your thoughts on connecting all of these things together in the future?
Yeah, I fully agree with Alan and everyone else for that matter. I mean, I think, the idea of collision to facilitate both culture and an opportunity to, organically learn and share information with colleagues will still always be a desire that's in human nature. But what I think will come out of this is a more rapid adoption of reservation technologies for sure across a range of industries, and the idea that that's not only strictly for convenience, but it's in the interest of providing a degree of safety and comfort, as well as helping people to understand exactly where they're going to go and how they're going to be most productive when they get there. And I think also, as I mentioned earlier, that the rise of communication in general and the flexibility for how people want to consume that communication is going to continue to increase. And I think, there's a number of real positive things that have come out of this as a result. I think we'll only see that accelerate over the next 5 years.
Thank you, Jay. Very well said. With that, I want to thank everyone for listening in on our main segment. I think we went over by a quick minute here. Patrick, Lauren, I'll turn it over to you to see if there are any questions from the audience.
Mo, appreciate it. I think we'll hold on questions for this afternoon. It was a fascinating discussion. I think we only scratched the surface of this topic. And for all of those in attendance, thank you. I'm sure the panelists would, appreciate you reaching out to them if you have questions about how to employ any of this technology in your office buildings and for clients that you may be serving. Great job. Again, Mo, we appreciate you pinch hitting for Kurt. I hope he has a speedy recovery. With that, we'll end today's program. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.